of all, I'm going to fill in the, the, the steps I'm going to fill in are awesome job there, Anupma. Uh, I love the conversational style and what you said about nature and nurture. And I myself come from a family of teachers, so all that you're telling about uh, the way we uh, take forward all these concepts to our kids meant a lot to me. And when you mentioned the books, Richard Bach, that was a book I myself might have read at least 10 times while growing up. So thank you for starting this today. And yeah, this is going to be difficult for me, and looks like much more difficult than the presentations I do at my work. And when Rajesh was asking me to pick up a topic, and all of you were bringing out the various concepts of Gita and Vedanta, I thought what I'm going to do. So this thought just came into my mind that what does a spiritual journey mean to a common man and or a common woman? So that's what we all are. So before I start, thank you everyone. I am probably the last one who joined this group in 2020, and it was sheer chance. And as they say, no man is an island. I was kind of becoming like an island. So I the chance to see one of the audio recordings which Rajesh was doing on his podcast website, and I came to know that this thing is going on. And probably it was quite late in October or November when I joined the group. So all of you, I know all of you are seekers and gyanis, and whatever little I have tried to understand and learn, you have a big hand in it. And so I'm trying to basically reflect on what I have understood till now. And if I make a mistake today or if I hurt anyone inadvertently, please forgive me. So someone said, I think it was VP that or Rajiv, that till we find a guru, this group is the guru for us. So that's why the guru stuti here. So I want to start with how it all began for me. And in a way, I will try to relate it to how and why we are gathered here as a group. Uh, so there is a hook here, and I have a lot of Pilani pictures. Obviously, I'm trying to draw the interest. Most of us have been in Pilani. We have done our studies in Pilani, but for me, it was much more different because I am born in Pilani. So I grew up there, ended up attending BITS for 4 + 2 years because I did my post-graduation also there. So it was a, for some of you, when we remember about BITS, it is like a paradise. So that entire initial period of my life, you can say it was a paradise. It was a limited life, a small place, but it was an abundant life. So there was access to all the libraries, lots of books, in all the schools there, as well as the BITS library and the Siri library. So I don't know how it made an impact, but it might have made some impact there. And I'll not stretch it too long. So around 10 years after passing out from BITS, I landed up in San Francisco Bay Area. Good life. And I got into this habit of winning. Like anything I was doing, the result was good. So you get into that cycle. And obviously there is a little bit of ego that builds up. So in that mode, I took some steps, and I was in a place where suddenly I was not winning, and from a very good state in the physical sense of the word, and from a comfort level also, I used to live at a place where I could bike to my workplace, but and this was the period between 2001 and 2008. And in 2008 I took some decisions, and that was on a trip to winning always, but it was a wrong decision. So I found myself in a old station wagon. And it is interesting, it was at a time when all the cars have CD players. They had a good radio and all, but this car had a cassette player only. And I was on a long commute. My mind was confused because things were not going well, and there was this cassette player. And God bless my mother. She had visited us 2 years ago and had left a set of 7 cassettes, and I had not paid any attention to them, what uh, this is, and cassettes were anyway outdated. But in that car, I had nothing to play, so I picked up those cassettes, and they were from someone I didn't know. And funnily enough, there has to be a Swami with most of us in this group. So those were the Gita commentaries of Swami Anubhavananda Saraswati. He's from the Chinmayanand mission lineage. And yeah, just to pass time during those commutes, I was listening to these audio cassettes. And the interesting thing about those commentaries on Gita was I think I needed this particular Swami, because if you listen to him, his motto is in Hindi, "Mauj mein raho," which is basically remain happy and joyous always. And his commentaries are filled with jokes, all kind of jokes, and they are funny. They have a funny tinge to them. And my mind was not geared to Gita at that time, and I didn't even know what the Bhagavad Gita is. But since I had nothing else to listen on on those 1.5 hour commutes back and forth, so a total of 3 hours, I was just playing those audio cassettes, and I found them funny. I was laughing to them. But soon they started making the impact, and I started getting into the meaning of it. So that's how it started for me, from not being aware of what the Bhagavad Gita was, to slowly starting understanding what it meant and how it could be implemented in daily life. And then things happened over the time, and I got in touch with an old friend of mine who pointed me to Swami Dayananda's book, which we were following last year. And since I started late, I didn't go through the book that thoroughly. I know you were doing like two pages every day, but I read through it, and I was told by that friend that you have to read this first without going to the actual book. If you like this, only then move on to the book. So I did finish the book, and then I started reading the Bhagavad Gita, uh, the ISKCON uh, edition of the book. So that's where it started, and uh, and relating it to why we all are gathered here as a group. So for me, the turning point was what I was meant to learn was from the Gita, that we have to take winning and losing in the same stride. So Jaya Jayo Samikritva, Labha Labho Samikritva. That is one of the verse in Gita, which means that sometimes you lose, sometimes you win, and but we have to take everything with a equanimous mind and attitude, and that's what started it all for me. And I think, as I was hearing to most of you before me, there has been some life event like that which happened and changed the course. Uh, or it has been the other way around, where we have reached, uh, we have achieved all that we wanted to achieve, and the life starts seeming like a race. Uh, and then we start thinking what we are doing here in our 50s, when the kids are growing up or are already grown up, and slowly we are losing our parents. So something like that or the other happens, and we take this turn. Now another thing is that I think whatever had to be told as part of these presentations has already been told, and I cannot add anything more, and I am not capable of adding anything more. So I thought, let me take some practical benefits of embarking on this journey. And we all know and have heard uh, my friends speak about karma yoga, dhyan yoga, bhakti yoga, and gyan yoga. So, uh, and in one of the talks by Swami Sir Priyananda, and thanks for introducing me to uh, Swami SPG and the others, which I started hearing to after joining this group. So in one of his talks, he says it was his conversation with someone in a university, where he's the question is that what are the benefits of being in this path. So the very first one is we don't have a choice, and if we call it some kind of seeking, we all are seekers, and we are at different stages, and it goes on. And, if not in this birth, then in next birth. It's a complex concept for me. And the second one is, yeah, once you are on this path, you like it so much that you keep going on it, and there is no stopping. But the third one was the practical aspects of it. And the practical aspects are, if you are doing things with a prasad buddhi, where whatever comes to you as a result, you take it with the equanimous mind, and the action is kind of arpanam to Ishwar, then it actually helps in your profession. because you are focused on your work, and with that focus, obviously, uh, the work will get done in a much better way. And sometimes the work is unpleasant, correct? Because there could be some things which we have to do as part of our job which are not unpleasant. For example, right now, yeah, we at my workplace we are in a situation where we may have to lay off people, and those decisions have to be made. So it is quite unpleasant work, but it has to be done. Then there are your duties towards family and society. So if we are doing it with that karma yoga mentality, I think things become easier, and you are able to keep your poise. Dhyan yoga, again, it helps in maintaining the equipoise, calmness. It reduces stress, increases concentration, flow, focus, brings in flow, and on the health side also there are obviously a lot of benefits. Stress is reduced. Coming to bhakti yoga, which is upasana, bhakti, or shraddha. Shraddha is also undivided attention to anything. Uh, so there is a sense of joy which comes in, because we are giving whatever we are doing as bhakti or upasana to whatever the deity is. And there is a acceptance of tough situations here also, and we come to consider that there is a bigger force which is permeating everything which is there in the world. So Brahman Satyam Jagat Mithya. I think that is the ultimate realization which comes in uh, on this path. And coming to Jnana Yoga, who am I? And we have heard as part of the 5 stories that we heard last week, that ultimately it is the sorrow which is removed, and we are supposed to reach the ultimate joy, Paramananda Prapti. And I'm not there, but if that happens, it's going to be very useful in the practical life also. And then there are some pitfalls in this journey, and some of these I have experienced, so that's why I thought I'll go through these. So there is a chance that it might become an intellectual exercise only, and where most of us are approaching it, I think it will benefit us most if we are applying all this to everyday life. It has to become an experience which can be experienced, and we have to grow. Uh, if you make it intellectual exercise, then yeah, there I think there are other people, the swamis and the gurus who are teaching us. For them, and folks who are pursuing it as their academic study, for them it is apt to make it an intellectual exercise. But for folks like me, it is best if all this can be applied to everyday life. Secondly, I experienced that it is a back and forth journey. So when I started understanding and learning these things, soon after that, I think probably was the time when personally I went through stages which I can call as the worst behavior, personal behavior, on my side. So it's not that sometimes we will immediately start improving or uh, moving on some very pure path. So patience is necessary, titiksha, uh, and I think if we are on that path, gradually things might start happening. The third one is trying too hard. So I think we shouldn't push ourselves too hard also, and things have to happen naturally. Uh, and sometimes what happens, and I have seen it in myself also, if we start following a very uh, sattvic kind of a routine, that ego comes in, that we are doing this thing, we're trying to meditate, uh, or someone, yeah, take we are eating sattvic food, so that should, that is also a form of ego, so that should not come in. The last one is, yeah, Shraddha is good and it's a prereq, but we have to avoid blind faith also, and not get trapped in different sorts of things. There are many uh, dangerous things also on this path. And lastly, if we compare this with other journeys, and I'm taking example of education and profession, these are usually journeys from a point A to point B. So in education, it could be starting studying and then getting admission, or uh, getting a degree. In profession, you plan and you start in a job, and ultimately someone might be gunning in for the corner office, or if it is business, a startup, we might be looking for an IPO. Spiritual journey, uh, from point A to point B, looks like a journey from ignorance to bliss. Uh, but my personal view is that it's not that, and it's not a journey at all. It's about just being where you are. And actually, there is nothing to achieve, but what is actually there has to manifest. So if we look at it, it is just a point. It is not going from point A to point B, and it's about being a point which is a center of a circle, and that circle is a circle without a circumference, and it has to include everything but exclude nothing. So that inclusiveness is what I think the ultimate aim of this journey is. So with that, thank you for your time and listening to me, and being my co-journeymen and women on this journey. Thank you.